2 more volunteers. And I need 2 people who are really, really, really into Thon. And
That one.
no, just go right there. And I need 2 people who are really, no, you got to be, I know you need to be in an upper leadership position in Thon and really into Thon. So I need an upper leadership position. Who's in a leadership role? Like captains or I don't know what you all call it, right? Who's there? Is that you, bro? All right, you, and then I need one other person. There's got to be somebody in a sorority who's like hardcore. Who's in a high, what's your position, bro? Hang on.
I'm Mitch, and I was a Haas captain this year.
You were what?
A Haas captain.
All right, okay, cool. Have a seat. I need somebody else. Who's really into Thon? Seriously. Bro. All right. Have a seat, bro. Mitch?
Yeah.
Are you in leadership role?
I've been a family facilitator for Ohana for the last 2 years, and I just danced this weekend.
Oh, yeah? All right, cool, man. Rock on, dog. And you're standing. Did you dance, bro?
Yeah.
All right.
I kept the fed there.
He kept him fed? All right, good. Yeah. So, I'm going to walk you guys through something, okay? You're going to need to watch. You might want to just move that way just a little so you make sure you can see that. So you ever wonder like how when you all buy like these T-shirts and stuff, you can buy a $2 T-shirt, $3, $4, $5 T-shirt, the whole thing. You ever wonder about that? Like, how is that possible? Like, do you have, is that a question? All right. So, I'm going to walk you through some other things. So currently today, there's about 500,000 children picking cotton in India. Huge product for cotton. Huge export. Fundamentally important. And when we say children picking cotton in India, we're talking 10 to 16 hours a day. It's very difficult work. You can imagine being out in the blistering sun, 10 to 16 hours a week. Many of the children are actually slaves. There are more slaves in India than any other country in the world. And many of the children are slaves. So they're actually picking cotton as slaves, not just as indentured servants, so to speak. Or if they do earn wages, it's really, really, really low. I mean, you can imagine, trust me if it's low, it's near slave level wages. And cotton in India produces like, it's about $9 billion industry for India. Okay? That's only one country in the world producing cotton, but it's one of the main ones. 500,000 children producing, not going to school, producing cotton. Okay? Next one. So, one of the things about cotton that maybe a lot of you don't know, and you guys probably don't know, is that it takes a lot of pesticides and insecticides because there are insects that eat at the cotton crops and there are pests that eat at the cotton crops. So cotton, about 2.4% of the arable About 2.4% of the arable land in the United States, or in the world, is planted with cotton. Of all the pesticides, insecticides that are sold in the world, all the insecticides, and it's a lot, you can trust me, 24% goes into the cotton crop. And of all the pesticides, 11% goes into the global cotton crop. That means that cotton as a plant is highly infested with insecticides and pesticides. And these are really, really, really poisonous, okay? So poisonous that that's what people wear in the United States when they're out in their fields, applying it. That's pretty serious, right? Very serious. Next slide. Here's a young woman in India. Go back again, real fast. U.S., with all of our OSHA regulations and so on, right? Here's India. Pretty amazing. Huge difference. Next slide. So here's some young children picking cotton. It's like, wow, man. The one girl on the left is from India, the other girl. Now here's the deal. It's really very difficult to ascertain something. How many people are poisoned and how many people die as a result of insecticides and pesticides? But people study it a lot. But the deaths are anywhere, and again, it's very difficult around the world, anywhere from definitively above 20, 25,000 people upwards to almost 1 million. 900,000, it's estimated by some very well thought out folks who think about this a lot that say, no, it's actually closer to about 900,000. Okay? The number of people who are poisoned but don't die, the estimate is between 20 million and 40 million people. Many of them, or disproportionate number of them, are children. A, because they're low to the ground, and B, because so their face is right in the cotton and all the pesticides and the insecticides, and B, because their lives are valued less. Okay? So now we think about, wow, all these pesticides and insecticides, carcinogenic chemicals being applied to this crop in mega proportions. This crop that goes into making all the clothing that we have. All right, next one. This is a shot that I pulled down from a children's cancer, a hospital for poor children in India. Not to say that these children have received cancer from insecticides or pesticides or something, but those who do, that's essentially what we're looking at. Okay? Next slide. Aside from pesticides and insecticides, we have sweatshop labor. Okay? So sweatshop labor. You've all heard it, right? So the number of children in the world who are involved in sweatshop labor is, as you can imagine, very, very, very high. And sweatshop labor is very low wages, poor working conditions, horrendous working conditions, long hours, 10 to 16 hours, and so on, and no benefits in any sort of way. And so you can imagine the number of children working in sweatshops is really off the hook, just like this. Look at that little kid making material. The girls up at the top, they happen to both be Indians. But there are kids everywhere, including in Haiti and so on. Next one. So here's a sweatshop, typical kind of sweatshop. Lots of places in the world. People just hunched over, working 12, 14, 16-hour days, being paid very little, sometimes as little as about $1.50 a day, to do things like, make the clothing that we're wearing and make lots of other things. So that's pretty serious. By the way, no, let's keep going. Aside from that, there's a lot of slavery in cotton. And the slavery is largely heavily focused on this country called Uzbekistan, which most people would have no idea where it is. And Uzbekistan produces about 5% of all the cotton in the world, so there's a lot of slavery. So if you have a cotton shirt on, it is like with the chocolate. Where's the chocolate? It is very much like with the chocolate. It is very likely that we all have clothing in our closets. We all have this. I can say this for certain, except for maybe a few of you who are really conscientized about this and you shop very carefully, but we all have clothing in our closet that has slave-produced cotton. Okay? Guaranteed. The cheaper the clothing is, the more likely it is to have slave-produced cotton. So now, can you turn your chairs around like this again? So we can talk more to the class. So gentlemen, go to the next slide. So here's Thon. And here's what I'm thinking. Thon, as I talked about last class, is really, really cool. Okay? You all come together. You guys are really involved. You dance. You're on your feet 46 hours, and you're here today. I mean, it's amazing, right? The dedication and so on. But dancing is just a single part of it. People like you. I mean, so many people all year long working on Thon. And I'm looking at all those T-shirts, and they're all cheap. Maybe there are a couple clubs that actually have fair trade T-shirts. You spend a little more and you make sure that it doesn't have, any of this nefarious labor in it. So you pay a couple bucks more. But mostly that's not what it is. You want the cheapest T-shirts possible, the cheapest clothing possible, because that's just more money that can go toward children and toward Thon. And yet I'm thinking, isn't it ironic that we have all of these students here at Penn State who are doing this amazing work for Thon and reproducing in the meantime, participating in the reproduction in the meantime of a system of degradation of children all around the world. 500,000 children in India producing cotton that guaranteed goes into those T-shirts. Children who should be in school. Children who are being poisoned and killed because of pesticides to help treat children in the United States who are being poisoned and killed from cancer. Like, the irony of that really blows my mind. So the children here, we need to stop cancer, and we're going to do all these activities like buy all these T-shirts and these clothes and so on and so forth that are going to directly or indirectly lead to the death of children on the other side of the world. It makes no sense to me. And certainly the exploitation. Can you respond to that?
I mean, I don't really know what to say about it, but
No, just say, don't use your head. Speak from here.
I mean, when you look at that picture, maybe you and maybe 2 or 3 people in this classroom that know about the pesticide problem look at that and say, wow, that could have contributed to kids dying because of the pesticides that go into it. But me not knowing that before, I would have never thought of that looking at that picture, if that makes sense.
What was the last thing you just said?
Like I would have never thought looking at that picture, wow, even though I look at that picture, I'm like, man, like that's saving kids. But now I look at that picture differently. Because of what you said.
Bro, how about you?
I think that that's a really good point, and that it's not necessarily fair that we would direct our attention to something that would reproduce negative implications elsewhere. But I also, when I think of charity, like my first thought is to always act locally. And to me, we have such a big impact in this community right here. And I understand that it's unfair that we're hurting people otherwise, or not being able to help other people. But I think that we have an opportunity to make an impact in this community, and we've taken it. And like I said, I don't know if that's overall beneficial, but that's what we've done.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because we're not buying shirts and saying, oh man, like I'm doing this to support, pesticides in the way that cotton was gotten for this shirt. Like I'm buying this shirt because I'm like, oh, this is $10 towards the Thon total that I'm going to contribute myself. So it's better, not to say it's better to do it, but it's a more, I don't know how to put it, but it's better to do it for a better cause than just to buy a shirt just to have a shirt.
Okay, Jiggy, can you look at your phone again? Can you look at cotton and child labor? See, my thing is this. I hear what you're saying. Act local and so on, right? My job, by the way, for those of you who may be feeling some kind of way about me and like, hey, he's like coming down on Thon or whatever the case is, like, no. We're just having a conversation about something here that many of you don't know about. How many of you know about this, by the way? What I'm talking about? How many of you are aware? Okay. Look, the issue is this. By the way, do you got something? What do you got?
International Labor Rights Forum.
Okay. What else?
Child labor in the cotton industry, what you can do.
Okay.
Environmental Justice Foundation on child labor and human rights abuses. The children behind our cotton, it's an article. Child labor and exploitation in India's cotton fields. Anti-slavery. cotton crimes background?
So there's a lot, right? There's a lot. So here's my question to you all, right? So I've been talking about this issue for a number of years now. And every year, what I say to the Thon people, and there's always a lot of Thon people in the class, right? How many of you, just raise your hands, how many of you are involved in Thon in some way? Okay, so that's a lot of people, right? And how many of you danced, by the way? Who danced? Yeah? Wait, stand up really fast if you dance, just because dancing is kind of pretty intense. Yo, cool. All right. The fact that you're even in classes on a Tuesday. Okay, so I've been talking about this issue for a few years, right? And what I've been saying for a few years is, look, wouldn't it be amazing if Penn State students connected to Thon, because you can connect it to cancer of children in other parts of the world, child exploitation, child slavery. If you found out that some of the Thon kids were pulled out of school and forced to go work in the fields for their parents or somebody else, I think most Penn State students would be appalled by that, right? Okay, and I get about acting locally and so on, right? But I've been having this conversation in this class over the past few years about why can't Thon get on this issue of child exploitation in other countries. Because when you hurt anybody, in Islam, there's this, it's a meditation that says if you harm or if you kill a single human being or harm a single human being, it's like harming or killing all of humanity. It's a really beautiful statement. So if I harm you, it's like harming everybody. And so, in a way, with Thon is, why can't we use that here at Penn State as sort of a motivating factor and say, you know what? We can't buy these cheap T-shirts that are made with child slaves and exploited sweatshop labor and one thing after another, and the poison kids and poison adults, and we shouldn't do that. That really is anathema to the whole thing of what Thon is about. And what if we as an organization at Thon actually put our heads together and study the issue with some people more than me, because I'm not an expert on this issue by any stretch, to figure out what would it cost us if everyone had to spend an extra $1.50 on a T-shirt? And that actually we could advertise that all of our T-shirts, all of our Thon clothing, everything we do, you buy it at the Thon store in the hub. It's all sweatshop free, slave free. It's all promoting the rights of children and people in other parts of the world. What if we did that? How awesome could that be? Let me ask you guys, what do you think about that? Because that's the response I get every year, and nothing happens. Another year goes by, and it's yeah, okay, whatever, right? And okay, can you respond to that? Because now you two are on the spot.
I mean, that's a fair point. It's definitely something that seems easy enough that we could do. But I would imagine, and it's not an excuse for why we shouldn't do it, but I would imagine there'd be a lot more that goes into that than we would think initially. With brands like Gildan or Nike and all the sponsorship they have through Penn State and the money that they give to Thon, whether switching our merchandise to a different company would hurt us tremendously in business donors. I'm sure it's possible, and I'm sure it would be beneficial, but I just think the logistics would be more complicated than us having the idea and trying to just go through with it.
Dude, beautiful, man. Yep, it would be. I'm glad you said that. It would be complicated. And there are students who study this issue, have been studying for the past 15 to 20 years, that I've been kind of involved in thinking about this stuff, that are trying to push Penn State into going sweatshop free and slave free. There were students that camped out on Old Main Lawn for 5 weeks in tents, trying to get the university to go sweatshop free, and the university held its ground because it's money. And I'm well, is it money? Is it the kids? It really is. Does it come down to money? Is that the world we want to live in? Y'all all right? Is that it? I don't know. It's your generation. I'm going to be out of here soon enough. I'm old.
Can I just add
you
to
would
that?
know more about it, right? Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to add to that. When you said that it might be harder to take care of the situation than we just think it. So there's an organization in Penn State called Students Against Sweatshops.
Yeah.
And within the past few years, they were able to get Penn State to suspend their contract with Adidas. And right now, they're already in the works with Nike to come up with a solution. So while it is really hard, I think that organizations like that, when it's available, I think is really powerful. I'm just saying.
Dude, no, you're
just saying.
rocking on. There's a lot of student organizations here that would run forward with this and love to have you all involved.
I think that's awesome. And I think we have a lot of ideas. Like this year, they were trying to get rid of water bottles because at Thon, you're really disoriented. Someone hands you a water bottle, you take a sip of it, you put it down. There are 1,000 other water bottles, you never find it again. And they gave everyone these Gatorade water bottles, and they're fill up your water bottle, we won't waste as much. And then Pepsi threatened to pull the sponsorship deal for the entire weekend because they weren't going to use disposable water bottles.
So my question would be this: how awesome would it be, Penn State students, if you took a stand against the corporations and said, go ahead, Pepsi, whoever you are. Because children are more important, and not just children here, but children everywhere. What if you did that? You know what I mean? And then we say, well, it's not possible. It's why isn't it? Why isn't it? Because I will guarantee, if I brought some of these children from India who have been poisoned with pesticides that were used to disinfect the cotton to make the shirts, I would guarantee that everybody at Thon would be saying, okay, this has got to stop.
Yeah, I think to that point that it's just got to be something that makes people aware. Yeah, I mean, putting someone else in their shoes, and like you said, bringing a kid physically here, speaking about that issue, and seeing what happened, just like we saw in the video about how someone could get beat like that in today's day and age.
Yeah. Okay.
Is really.
All right. Well, listen. In that case, why don't we do this? This is going to be a video. We're going to put it up tonight. Why don't you use this video to send it out to some of your other friends around campus as one of the assignments for this class, and see what other people say. Maybe you can make it happen. Maybe it's not that difficult. So I don't know, dudes. Thon people, is anyone annoyed at me? Is anyone annoyed? Any Thon people annoyed at me? You feel like I'm being a dick? Yeah? No. You're not really annoyed. Are we good? All right, man. Let's see what we can do, gentlemen. All right? Dude, thanks, dog.
Thank you.
All right. All right, listen.